If God is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnibenevolent, then why does evil exist at all? This is one of the toughest and oldest challenges to belief in God, known as the logical problem of evil. For starters, what's meant by the words omnipotent, omniscient, and omnibenevolent? So by omnipotent, we simply mean that God is all-powerful. By omniscient, that means that God is all-knowing. And by omnibenevolent, that means that God is all-good, or his actions are guided by the good. So with those definitions in mind, the argument for the logical problem of evil goes as follows. Premise 1 states, if God exists, then he is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnibenevolent. Premise 2 would state that if God is omnipotent, then he has the power to prevent all evil. Premise 3 would state that if God is omniscient, then he knows how to prevent all evil. Premise 4 states that if God is omnibenevolent, then he would want to prevent all evil. And then the conclusion is that evil still exists. Yet, we have all these three properties that God has that would seem to point to the fact that evil would not exist. We somehow still get evil. So this is to say that these properties are incompatible with a world that is evil, or that has evil inside of the world. Okay, so here you might ask, well, why are these incompatible with the world that's evil? Like, why would these properties in a God be incompatible with the world that has evil in it? Well, I guess you'd have to ask yourself, right? Let's say that you saw someone about to punch someone, and let's say that you had the power to stop it. You knew that they were going to punch them, and you wanted them to not punch them. What would stop you from doing that, right? So the question is, would something really stop you from doing that if you had those three properties? You could stop it, you knew how to stop it, and you wanted to stop it. Philosopher Alvin Plantinga argues that there would be good reasons for a God with these properties to allow evil. And the argument goes as follows. Premise 1 states that a world with free creatures is better than a world without free creatures. And the idea behind this is that moral goodness requires freedom. Things like love, honesty, courage, right? All of these things really don't count in a world where there is no freedom and there's no agency to make choices. Because let's imagine that you could choose to give someone money out of your own goodwill, or if you were forced to, right? If someone did it out of their own goodwill, then you could say, okay, that was a good choice, that was kind. But if they were forced to, right, you can't really attribute any praise to them because their decision was ultimately made for them. Additionally, a world with free creatures, may be better than a world without free creatures because of things like relationships. And when we think about the idea of love, right? Love is something where you choose to work for the good of another person, but it's ultimately has to be done without coercion. For example, let's imagine if you were dating someone and the relationship was going well, but then later you found out that maybe your parent was paying them to date you, or in some sort of hypothetical world, they were given a magic potion, and that's the only reason they came to love you. Right? It'd feel pretty cheap. It wouldn't be real, right? They didn't have the freedom and they didn't have the choice to do that. They were coerced into it. And ultimately, coercion is not good. So it's that freedom that is going to allow creatures to make decisions, but ultimately make their decisions count. Okay, so if we accept premise 2, that leads us into premise 2, which states that if creatures are truly free, then God does not have the ability to make them always choose good, because that would cancel their freedom. And so I want to take the chance to return back to omnipotent, right? When it's said that God is all-powerful. Well, in this definition, by that it can mean God has the ability to do everything that is logically possible. And the reason why there's that qualifier of logically possible is because it would entail that he can't do contradictory things like create a married bachelor or create a four-sided triangle or, create a stone so heavy that he can't lift, right? Because these logical contradictions, they simply do not exist. They're not possible. Same thing with free creatures. If a creature is to be free, then they cannot be programmed to always make the right choice, right? A part of having freedom is having the ability to choose evil. All right, so if premise 2 is true, that leads us to our third premise, which states that the possibility of moral evil comes with the gift of freedom. And with that, the conclusion would be that God and evil are not logically impossible because evil can exist as a result of God giving creatures free will. All right, now some might see that conclusion and say, okay, sure, that might follow, but let's look at possible worlds. Let's look at, possible worlds where people make all types of decisions and things like that. They might say, well, is there really no possible world where creatures are free but just choose to always make the right decision. And, Alvin Plantinga, he introduced the idea of transworld depravity, which is to say that maybe as a result of having free will, no matter what world you go into, there may be the inevitable of free creatures choosing to do evil things. There may actually be no possible world where free creatures choose to always make the right decision. That may be a possibility. So even with the objection of, well, couldn't God just choose the world where free creatures just happen to always choose the right thing? That world may not even be possible. And with that, we've reached the end of the video. Thanks for watching. But tell me, is a God that is all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-good incompatible with a world that has the possibility of evil? Let me know, and have a great day.